episode of Get Ready, and I'm very excited about my guest today. Someone I met at an event down in LA, and I started out, as many of you know, as a hypnotherapist, and I just found another technique that I don't think is better. It's just different, was more in line with the way that I work. And this person is an absolute superstar in this field. So let me tell you a little bit about Grace Smith. She's on a mission to make hypnosis mainstream. Awesome. As a pioneer in the hypnotherapy field, her private clients include Fortune 500 CEOs, A-list celebrities, Olympic athletes, and government officials. She is founder of the world's #1 provider of hypnosis education, products, and services, Grace Space Hypnosis, and Grace Space Hypnotherapy School. She's the author of the Amazon #1 bestseller, Close Your Eyes, Get Free. And her work has been featured in The Atlantic, Forbes, Entrepreneur, InStyle, Marie Claire, and she's been a guest on The Dr. Oz Show and a regular guest on CBS's hit show, The Doctors. Meet my new friend, Grace Smith. Hey, Grace.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so cool to be here because I've been tapping along with Brad for years. So it's really awesome to be here. Thanks so much.
Oh, my pleasure. It was a great ego thing when we met to, see how successful you are, and for you to say, "Oh, I love tapping to your videos." Like, oh, cool.
I really, really do. I really do. It's kind of surreal to be, I normally watch you on the same computer. So for us to be live and working together, such a dream come true. I got to thank our mutual friend, Gala Darling, for bringing us together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you have a new book coming out called Close Your Eyes, Lose Weight, which in these very challenging times could be extremely helpful. I was thinking earlier this morning, when people go off to college, they talk about the freshman 15, those extra pounds that people put on. So COVID-19 might be the weight that I'm carrying my COVID-19 right here because I'm not social distancing from the refrigerator.
Right. Exactly.
So tell us, what can we do?
Absolutely. And, I'm also cognizant of the fact that not everybody can wrap their head around something like personal development or any sense of getting better right now or any desire to put the chips down. And I just want to say everyone's learning how to cope with a global pandemic for the first time. We don't have a handbook for this. And wherever you are emotionally, mentally, you have to honor that. And some people, in fact, we've received hundreds of messages from our community members reaching out to me and saying, Grace, I'm emotionally eating to an extent that I have never experienced before because my emotions are what they've never been before. The level of uncertainty, fear, sadness, and we're isolated in our homes, which is where our kitchens are. And so if you are finding yourself reaching for food when you don't want to, or you find yourself reaching for the types of foods that you don't want to, then this book is for you, and it is coming out at such a perfect time. And for everybody else, don't worry about it. I'll be here when you're ready, when and if the time comes. So what can we do? Well, one of the things that I think is so important for people to know that even prior to the coronavirus pandemic that we're all dealing with, one of the things I focus on in the book is emotional eating, for the pure fact that when you're feeling sad, when you're feeling depressed, when you're feeling bored, the body is seeking serotonin, dopamine, endorphins. The body is seeking a hit. It wants to stop feeling bad. And most foods that don't come off of a tree or out of the ground were synthetically or chemically engineered to be addictive, meaning they spike the same parts of your brain that are spiked by drugs: endorphins, serotonin, dopamine. And so when we eat that slice of pizza or that piece of chocolate, we're actually getting a hit of what feels good. Of course, on the flip side of that, a few minutes later, there's guilt and shame often, right? So what we have to do is reprogram our subconscious minds to make a better choice before, so we don't have to deal with the aftermath after.
Yeah, well, that's why I would say self-sabotage is simply misguided self-love. So even though we might say, oh, I'm totally sabotaging myself by eating this entire bag of chips or whatever it might be, it's not that we're trying to hurt ourselves. Part of us is saying, I'm uncomfortable. My programming tells me this will make me feel better. So that's why I'm doing it. I'll deal with the consequences later. Right now, I just need to feel good. And I love what you said earlier about really honoring where we're at this moment, and so that no one feels that we're shooting on them. It's not that
Right.
you should be losing weight right now. You should be having the best practices right now. It's like, no, you should be doing what you can to take care of yourself in whatever way you can at the moment.
Yep.
And through the various things that we share, hopefully you'll find some room to then make it a healthier choice.
Absolutely. Yeah. What we've been hearing mostly from our community members and clients and customers who've been emailing in is they're saying, and again, not everybody feels this way, but who's been writing into us feels this way. I want to use this time to come out stronger, not weaker.
Yeah.
And if that's where you're at, then I think things like hypnotherapy, tapping, and Brad loves hypnosis. I love tapping. We all are, there's a hybrid of tools that we can use and mix and match. And you need certain things in certain moments, and whatever it is, whatever's calling to you. But what a interesting concept to at least play with. What if I came out of this stronger, better, healthier? Even more so than just coming out of it neutral, and certainly more so than coming out of it worse off, right? With the extra pounds, with the bad habits, with the addiction or the added neuroses. And I'm not saying that it's going to be easy or that there's even one straight path that's clearly defined, but I find that to be a very uplifting concept to mull over, even for myself personally.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to provide resources for others who feel the same way.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it is a choice. It's not
Yeah.
simply, this is a terrible thing and only bad outcomes can happen and there's no possibility of any good thing. It's like, well, no, that's one perspective, but there is a reset going on for a lot of
Right.
us. And, a lot of people have talked about it being the new normal. And my wife is like, no, I hate that term. It's like, yeah, because we don't want, this is not the normal. It's a temporary normal, but we can
Yeah.
create a new normal that's better than what used to be the normal. And it really is an
Right.
opportunity to do that. And again, not shitting on anyone and saying, you need to take this opportunity and come out of it better, stronger, healthier, happier. But that is a possibility. Even
Yeah.
though it's
I love
such
that.
an unfortunate, challenging time, there have been, great things. I love it from Napoleon Hill when he said, every seed of adversity or every bit of adversity carries within it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. And so being
Wow.
able to look at this and say, okay, ooh, treasure hunt. Where do I find where I can come out better on the other side?
Yeah. One of the things that's been coming up when we discuss this with our community members is this thing of, okay, I've got all the time in the world, and that is so wonderful. And also, what the heck do I do with it, right? It's like oftentimes there's, I know, a saying that says if you want something done, ask the busiest person you know to do it, right? Because they're obviously excellent in time management. They can figure out how to fit a lot into the same day. I've seen memes that say Beyonce has the same 24 hours in her day as you do. What are you doing with yours? And
Right.
so if people are finding because they have so much time, they're just procrastinating endlessly. But if we decide to, if we feel good about doing something different with this surplus of time, not having to travel, no distractions, you can't go have an hour-long coffee with your friend, as much as that might be nice. That takes up a lot of time, right? I mean, one of the things I noticed when I left New York City, where I lived right around there growing up my whole life, but then I lived in the city for 10 years and finally landed down here in Vero Beach, Florida. I had so much more time because I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any friends. There were no coffee dates. I was like, whoa, I'm getting so much work done. And now this is that on steroids. So one of the things we asked our community members, what would you love so much? They said accountability, working together in a group, knowing how to spend my time. And so, along with the book, which comes out on April 21st, which can be pre-ordered now, we're putting together a live 90-day challenge that starts on May 1st so that we can all figure out what to do with our time. We can get together in this huge community every single day, check in, go chapter by chapter through the book, which is a 12-week program, and lift each other up, support one another, be there for the highs, the lows, everything in between.
Awesome. Awesome. So tell me a bit about the process that goes through. So is it teaching folks self-hypnosis, and what is that process that you take people through?
Yeah, it's a great question. So in the book, I do teach self hypnosis. And my first book, called Close Your Eyes, Get Free, was really the foundational course about hypnosis, everything you'd ever want to know. There's the history behind it, there's the science behind it, there's very in depth how to do self hypnosis for a lot of very popular topics like insomnia, nail biting, fear of flying, all the things. So in the weight loss book, in the preface, I summarize the highlights of what you need to know from the first book, but obviously you can't fit a whole book in the preface. So if you want to know more, you could go to the foundational book. And then once you've got those down, we dig into the program. And uh, would it be fun for me to just go through what it is week by week real quick?
Sure, that'd be awesome.
Okay, great. So the first week is called the fundamentals, and you're learning how to do 3 things that are so important to sustained weight loss and feeling good in your body. And they are learning how to chew. Most people take huge chunks of food, swallow them whole, and wonder why they're bloated and have no energy, right? Because it takes so much energy in the body to digest these chunks of rotting food. So when we actually chew our food, it's like you're having a liquid diet. You're getting immediate access to those nutrients. But when you can program your subconscious mind to chew, you're actually going to stick with it. The next thing is to hydrate. We all talk about how you need to drink more water, but again, we're programming this into the subconscious. So you're never eating a meal without first having an 8-ounce glass of water.
Awesome.
Because it's fine to know that and have that information. But if it's not habitual, we all know knowledge is not power, right? Knowledge that you take action upon is power, and you can do that if your subconscious is programmed to do it. And the third fundamental is knowing when to stop. So when you're satisfied, and that's a very cool thing. My husband's Brazilian, and so we kind of always notice these differences in the language. In English, we say, I'm full, I'm stuffed, right? To a Brazilian person, they say, I'm satisfied. And when I used to say things like, oh, I'm stuffed, my husband would go, I don't know if you know how that sounds. It doesn't sound great. I'm
Right.
not judging you, and I'm not judging everyone in America who says it, but in Brazil, we say, I'm satisfied. And I thought, wow, what a cool affirmation.
Yeah.
I stop when I'm satisfied instead of
Right.
I stop when
Because
I'm
stuffed is so
stuffed.
far across the line. It's like,
No coming back from that.
yeah.
You're just going to end up on the couch.
I saw the satisfied barrier and went, wait, because I'm an achiever. I went the extra mile
Right?
past that.
Exactly. I love that. So that's all week 1. We cover a lot right out the gate. And then week 2, we're overcoming limiting beliefs. So any failed attempts you've had at falling in love with your body, having a healthy, nourishing relationship with food, or straight up weight loss in the past, we've got to reframe those. Week 3 is learning how to eat intuitively. This is not about a particular diet. We are not promoting keto or paleo or vegan or high fat, low carb. This is about what's right for you and your body, and everybody's totally different. We train you how to do that. Week 4 is really fun. We train your brain to crave exercise. It's not about a particular type of exercise. It's about programming your subconscious until you get to the point that you can do 20 minutes of high like cardio, get that heartbeat going every day. Because once you do that, you'll then release those endorphins, which become addictive, but this time it's a good kind.
Yeah.
So it'll get you craving exercise. You see all those beautiful workout gurus who just can't not exercise for a day. You can be that person and have it be an exercise you love. Week 5, overcoming emotional eating. That's going to be a huge week for all of us right now. Week 6, similar but different, overcoming eating when bored. Week 7, upgrading how you reward yourself. And there's a lot of facets to this, but put simply, ever since we were kids, when you got a good grade, you were given a reward of a lollipop. When it was your birthday, you were rewarded with friends and gifts and sugar, right? When it was a holiday, there was cookies and love. And so there is such a convoluted mess in the subconscious that sugar is love.
Sugar is love. Sugar is happiness. Yes. Yes. So when we're feeling
Mm-hmm.
down, hey, I need a hit of happiness.
Exactly. And the truth is, we know what sugar does to us in the long run. We don't have to be extremists if we don't want to and get rid of it altogether. Some do, right? I've been sober since I was 24. I'm not going to just go have a half a glass wine. That's going to cause havoc in everybody's life of everybody I love and know.
Mm.
So there are some people who can't have a little bit of sugar. They
Right.
are addicted to it
Right.
and they got to break the addiction. There are some people who can totally have it in moderation with subconscious programming, and we help you decipher where you're at and what's healthiest for you. Week 8, the people and the places that trigger you, that's interesting because we can't go anywhere. But if there are people in your home who are eating in a way that triggers you, this week will help you.
Yeah.
So that week's going to be partly easy now. We'll get you set up for success. Week 9, putting the law of attraction into work with all of this. Week 10, coping with unwanted attention. This is a chapter that's primarily for survivors of sexual abuse, because there's a statistic that found that 80% of morbidly obese women were abused as children. And there's a subconscious belief that the bigger I am, the more invisible I am to society and therefore to predators.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've seen this with
Yeah.
clients of my own, and wanting to be this belief of I can't afford, it's not safe to be more physically fit and therefore more attractive, or
Yeah.
whatever it is, I need that barrier. I need an extra wall around me. There's all, again, self-sabotage being self-love, and sometimes, and a lot of times we're not even consciously aware of it, you
Yep.
know.
So often the client's not consciously aware of it until we get in there.
Yeah.
And when your subconscious believes being overweight to that extent is what's keeping you alive or what's keeping you safe, then there's no, oh, just do keto, right? That's actually
Right.
a very disempowering and almost mean thing to say to a subconscious mind that's so desperately wanting to keep this person safe and alive.
Right.
So we have to reprogram it around, okay, what do you choose for yourself? Because right now, this was chosen for you by the perpetrator.
Mm-hmm.
And does freedom look different for you? And every client approaches it differently, but ultimately every client wants to be free, free from a habit that is hurting them,
Yeah.
that's misguided in the subconscious level of keeping them safe. So that chapter won't apply to everybody, and for those who it doesn't, that's a week where you're going to go back and strengthen any of the previous chapters that don't apply. But for the people who it does apply to, it's the one that's going to change your life the most.
Yeah.
And then there's 2 more weeks. There's week 11, overcoming the fear of success. At this point, everyone's going to be feeling amazing, looking amazing. And that's when we start to go, I've been so good. I deserve XYZ. And that sneaky self-sabotage comes in
Right.
because we're not looking for it.
Right.
So we re-strengthen, solidify. And then week 12 is learning to love yourself for the long run. And the
Yay.
whole book has this message, but the final week really, really, we go deep, because this is not about choosing between body positivity or weight loss. Because if you don't love yourself at the subconscious level, you will continue to self-sabotage without meaning to. So effective weight loss and effective any form of happiness stems from subconscious self-love, self-worth, self-confidence. So we drive that home, and I'm just so excited for everybody who joins in on our challenge and reads the book, because I know it's going to make a big difference for everyone who really follows along and does it with us.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So as I
Yeah.
said, I had started out as a hypnotherapist, and to me, and I still do, a little bit of hypnosis at the end of a lot of my sessions. I call it guided imagery. And I'm sorry, because I know you're trying to make hypnosis mainstream and by giving it another name. And
Just call it hypnosis.
and it's funny because I recently, I did a Facebook live recently. I've been doing this Facebook and YouTube lives just to try to support folks through this time. And I've been ending them with some guided imagery. And someone typed in the comments, I can't do that because it reminds me too much of hypnosis. It's like, well, there's a reason why it
Oh,
reminds you of
yeah.
hypnosis, because that's what it is. And two, why is that a problem? So, and I know that's, your mission is making it mainstream. So for folks who say, "Oh, hypnosis, no, that's wrong, that's bad," what do you say to these folks?
Yeah,
Rather than
I
calling it something
practice. I've
else.
been saying it every day since 2012. So was this person of the Christian faith, I'm assuming?
I don't know, because it was just
Okay.
going through YouTube, just random comments, and so that was just the short thing. And I've definitely had that. I think I told you the story of when I was teaching
Mhm.
EFT at Sacramento Drug Court for as a recovery tool for people coming out of jail for drug offenses, and I always did some guided imagery. And somebody there said, "Oh, I can't do the hypnosis. My mom and my pastor would be very disappointed." And like, okay, so if disappointing them was really a motivating factor, how do you feel about you going to jail for a drug offense? I would like
We
to think
all
that,
end up here together.
yeah, I would like to think that hypnosis would have been a little bit less disappointing. But yeah, so I've definitely seen where a lot of people have these beliefs about why
Yeah,
it's wrong or bad.
absolutely. So the reason why certain religious sects and certain cultural groups um, think that hypnosis is the devil's work or voodoo is because they also believe that hypnosis is mind control, which it's not.
Right.
And there are passages in the Bible that say you can't allow anybody to control your mind. Now, if hypnosis were actually mind control, every hypnotist on the planet would be a billionaire. Right?
I used to say the same thing. If I could tell people to go out, rob a bank, and bring it back to me,
Right.
but I
I'd be
can't.
set. We wouldn't
Yeah,
be having this session, right?
yeah.
I'd be chilling on my yacht. No. Well, at least all unethical hypnotists would be billionaires, and every unethical person would then become a hypnotist in order to become a billionaire, right? They wouldn't
Right.
go, and I'm not saying everybody on Wall Street is this way, but if you really, your whole goal in the life was to make a boatload of money, you wouldn't run a hedge fund. You would just be hypnotist and rob people blind, right? Because they would just give you their money. So it doesn't make any sense. The minute you give even a tiny bit of thought to it, you realize if a hypnotist could actually control someone's mind, every time they left their home, there would be this scene of like a zombie apocalypse of people covering their eyes and their ears and running in the opposite direction because they wouldn't want their mind controlled. And, finally, to illustrate this, I'll share a quick story. Very early on in my career, like in the first week of sessions, I had a woman come to me in her 40s. She was a smoker. She had a teenage son. She felt such guilt over smoking in front of him. She hated the smell, hated the taste, hated spending the money. She was so ready to quit, and she quit in 2 or 3 sessions. Easy peasy, nice and quick, never smoked again. A few months later, she brings me her 16-year-old son, who's now smoking. And I was brand new. I was also very inexpensive at the time, so this was not breaking the bank for them. But 10 sessions in, he's still a smoker. And this should have been my first question. Now it is. But I was a newbie back then. And I said, "Do you want to quit smoking?" And he said, "No, I just started. I'm 16. All my friends just started. I'm not trying to quit." And I said, "Well, what have you been doing every week?" And he said, "My mom's going to ground me, not let me play video games unless I come here." So I come here. And I said, "Well, what do you want to work on?" He said, "I want to work on being a better skateboarder." So I said, "All right, well, we're not going to waste another day on this. Let's work on skateboarding." That weekend, he placed in his very first skateboard competition.
Awesome.
So if I could control somebody's mind, believe me, that 16-year-old would have stopped smoking just
Right.
like his mom had done. He didn't want to, but the thing he did desperately want, he saw results for very quickly. So when someone says to me, "Oh, I couldn't do that, my pastor would be against it," my initial reminder to myself and all of my students, I have 250 hypnotherapy certification students in my school, and we're always growing. So if that calls to you, you can check that out too. And I remind them, look, we're not evangelists here, okay? It's not our job to go out and tell people who are steadfast in their mind that hypnosis is somehow something negative, because that's where they're at, and it's not our job to force them or convince them. What our job is to do is to show up, be as professional, as effective as possible. So more and more people in the world start to hear about, oh my God, I had a fear of this and I had hypnotherapy and it's gone. Oh my goodness, I was, traumatized by this thing that happened to me when I was 12. I went to a hypnotherapist. I'm finally free. And as more of these stories circulate, all of these misconceptions, these lies really start to dissolve. And one of the coolest things was a friend of mine who I went to high school with, who was brought up in a very Catholic household. When she finally came to me and she said, Grace, I've been following you. I've known you my whole life, but when you first started this, I was like, oh, she lost it. Something happened to Grace. She's losing her mind. She went from her corporate job in corporate America, and now she's a hypnotist. What's going on? And she said, but I've been watching you, and I've seen all of the news. You've gotten all of the press. I've seen how many people you've helped, and I'm really desperate. I've tried everything else. I need your help. I helped her. She then sent me her mom. She sent me her dad, her whole family loves this. And it's not because I convinced her, right? It's not because I sat her down and said, you're wrong. It's because
Right.
I just kept showing up, doing the best I could. And she noticed.
Yeah. Yeah. Eventually people will
Yeah.
see the result and go, oh, I'll have what you're having. And
Yes.
maybe that belief that I had about this might have been a misunderstanding.
Yes,
And that's what it is. It's
exactly.
misunderstandings, and all we can say, hey, wherever you're at, that's fine, but I'm going to keep doing what I can do. So,
Totally. And I won't say, I'm not immune to frustration with the misunderstandings. And I also, if you meet someone for the first time and you say I'm a hypnotherapist, they go like this at you and they're making a joke. And I think to myself, oh man, if they only knew that last night I was helping a woman get through chemotherapy with 80% decreased pain and nausea, maybe they wouldn't be
right.
doing that right now.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's not frustrating, it's just that, I mean, look at politics, right? You write this big long post on the internet with all your beliefs. You didn't change anyone's mind.
Right.
So we just
Right.
have to know where we can be effective and where we just kind of have to get another layer of thick skin, forgive, move on, stay focused.
How is it that telling people they're wrong doesn't seem to be as effective as we?
If I could control somebody's mind, nobody would think what they think about hypnosis, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And since that's not happening, it's great that you're doing what you are doing to get the work
Yeah.
out there and sharing it and making a difference in people's lives. And it will continue to become more mainstream.
Mhm.
Hey, I'm trying to get tapping on your face to go mainstream.
Yes, and I thank you for that. I mean, I just love reading the comments on your videos. It's so uplifting to me because I think where you are in EFT is where hypnosis will be in hopefully, a couple more years. And reading the comments on your videos just warms my heart and makes me remember what's possible and how important it is to just keep showing up and helping.
Well, and you definitely are. And I greatly appreciate you showing up and helping here on the show. And I will
Mhm.
have a link that folks can go to find out about your other books as well as your new book and all the great things you're up to. And thanks for spending some time with us.
Thank you so much for having me.